SoCal Filipinos presents Merienda and Tea Time with special guest Loida Lewis. Co-hosted by Lois Klavir, President of the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce in Greater Los Angeles. Please welcome SoCal Filipinos founder Jason Lustina.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully all of you have gotten some tea and some merienda for today because we have a special guest. But I do want to thank our sponsors for today, Max and Lucy's and Samada. We have several here, and you're going to see some of our guests have it. But they're really yummy. Make sure you check them out on Instagram at Max and Lucy, Facebook, and all those other good things. So hopefully you all are eating and enjoying your afternoon so far. But we have a couple announcements before we get into our special guest that'll be joining me today. Several events happening with SoCal Filipinos. Today is the first day of Filipino Food Month, so what a perfect time for us to have tea and merienda, right? So Filipino Food Month is happening all month long. Make sure to visit our directory that is at SoCalFilipinos.org and visit those businesses and take some photos, take some video, and highlight them and support our local Filipino restaurants and food businesses. The big day that everybody is looking forward to, April 23rd, we have the unofficial Filipino Day at Disneyland. We are anticipating over 1,000 people there, so we're really excited. Make sure you get your t-shirt and make sure you sign up for the breakfast. We're gonna have a full day over there and have some fun. And other events, we have Mayfest, we have the Filipino Festival in Long Beach, the Asian Cultural Festival. Again, go to SoCalFilipinos.org to see all of the events. But let's go into what our show is about. But we have a special guest, but I am going to be joined by my very good friend, the president of the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce for Greater Los Angeles, Lois Klavir. So please welcome Lois.
Hi, Jason. Hi, SoCal Filipinos. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all of you who are watching. I'm so excited to be part of this. Again, Lois Klavir from the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce of Greater LA.
Yeah, and you have done so much great work. And I know recently that you just celebrated Women's History Month. And it's funny that we're doing this interview at the close of it and the start of a new one. But how was your event?
It was amazing. You know, it's our first women's event, and it was sold out twice. It happened at the Mountain Gate Country Club, and we featured Go, Grow, Glow Health, Wealth, and Beauty Conference. So it's really highlighting Filipino entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals. So we had a top 50 influential Filipinas, and it was warmly accepted. And then it was successful. Talking about Filipino food, we featured 3 of our members who are, you know, delicious desserts, Sugar and Grace. If you haven't tried them, they're in West Hills. They're Ube Bico de Yema, so make sure they're in your list. And then Kalaho Catering, also very good, like mini cupcakes, you know, drizzled with little gold sprinkles. And then Fiesta Fast Food with their favorite turon. So we want to, you know, balance women and then food because it's Filipino Food Month.
Yeah, nothing brings the Filipino community together better than just food, right? I mean, that's what always brings us together. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and take it away and we can get the show started.
Excellent. Well, I am very excited to share. We're going to have a wonderful speaker today. So let me share her bio. I think we have a video, Jason, right, that we're going to share?
Oh, let's go ahead and just play that.
And while we're waiting, are we good? I can share some interesting information while we're waiting for the video.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was already sharing. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. Let me try that again. All right, I think we got it this time. Nothing like live and having technical difficulties, right?
Well, let me share something real quick about our speaker, our guest for tonight. So, Mrs. Lewis is chair and CEO of TLC Beatrice LLC, a family investment firm, a lawyer by profession, and admitted to practice in the Philippines and New York. Mrs. Lewis was the first Asian woman to pass the New York bar without attending law school in the United States. Isn't that amazing? Wow. After she won her discrimination case against the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS, she worked as general attorney in New York federal office from 1978 to 1988. She co-authored How to Get a Green Card, which is now in its 14th edition and a bestseller in its genre. Make sure to get that book. I'm sure many Filipinos wanted to get a green card. And then Mrs. Lewis served as chair and CEO of TLC Beatrice International, a $2.2 billion multinational food company with operations across Europe from 1994 to 2007. She assumed its leadership after the untimely death of her husband, Wall Street financier and first Black billion-dollar dealmaker, Reginald Lewis. Her memoir, Why Should Guys Have All the Fun? An Asian American Story of Love, Marriage, Motherhood, and Running a Billion-Dollar Empire, will be released on March 28th, 2023. So do we have our video ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
A leader in her own rights. Top woman business executive. Distinguished Asian business leader. A Filipina. Born and raised in Sorsogon City, Philippines. A consistent achiever in school and was involved in the Student Council and the National Union of Students.
After law school, she met Reginald Lewis. Their story almost sounds like a fairy tale. Boy marries girl, moves to New York, raises two girls, and then makes billions. Literally. The ambitious and driven Harvard Law School graduate who was raised by a single mom bought Beatrice, a food company, in a leveraged buyout in 1987 for $1 billion. Reginald Lewis was the first African American to lead a billion-dollar Fortune 500 company. Many may also not know his widow, Mrs. Loida Lewis, took over the company after her husband's death. She's credited for helping to navigate the company before selling it off in 1999.
She's also the founder and president of the Lewis College in the Philippines, as well as major sponsor of the People's Alternative Livelihood Foundation of Sorsogon Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Loida Nicholas Lewis.
Good evening or good afternoon to Jason and Lois. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's evening in New York, but we're still in the late afternoon here in Southern California.
Thank you for inviting me to tea and merienda.
Yes, how are you enjoying? What tea? Actually, we should ask, what type of tea do you drink?
Usually green tea with honey and
Green
lemon.
tea?
And this is coming from Max and Lucy. Empanada. No, this one is ensaymada. Ensaymada. Okay. Masarap. It's excellent. Salamat, Max and Lucy.
Thank you, Max and Lois. Are you having tea also with us since, this is Tea and Merienda?
Yes, I am. Look at what I have because we're in LA. Gotta have LA Dodgers. And this is white tea pomegranate.
Yum. And to our viewers, again, Lois doesn't have ensamada because I actually took the whole box. So I'm going to share the rest with her.
Yes, please. I love ensamada. So looking forward to it, Jason. It's a date.
Yeah, awesome. So, Lois, you had the first question, so let's get started.
Yes, we're very excited, Tita Loida, to have you here. You know, it's a this what we have introduced to you is like very small. I feel like with everything that you have done, you know, in your career, in the community, being an entrepreneur, being a woman. So let's start. You know, just telling us about yourself. If you can tell us something to our viewers that you wanted to highlight in your introduction.
Well, you have seen a little bit in that 2-minute video, but what I wanted to say is that when Mr. Lewis died, I saw to it that his story is told. And with Blair Walker finishing it, the handwritten notes of Mr. Lewis, we came out in 1995 with Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? How Reginald Lewis Created a Billion-Dollar Business Empire. And for the past 30 years, I have been going around talking about him because in the African American community, he really was a big deal. After 30 years, I was chapter 6. I was chapter 6 in his book. So after 30 years, I thought, I think the rest of the world, especially my fellow Filipinos, should know what really is my story. And so last week, I mean Tuesday, I came out. Weil and Company came out with this book. Why should guys have all the fun? It's a takeoff from my husband's book, but really the next one is an Asian American story of love, marriage, motherhood, and running a billion-dollar empire. So thank you for having me, so that I can tell SoCal Filipinos in California, not only in Southern California, that there is a book out that tells the story of a Filipina who did not, who was intending to become a nun, but followed her mother's advice to finish everything to finish her law school at UP, University of the Philippines, and continue with her career. And then finish it and become a lawyer. And that's when things happened because my father, Francisco Nicolas, said, "Great, now you're a lawyer. This is my gift. Go around the world, pick up your sister at Columbia University, and come back, and we will start your career." And
oh my gosh, there's so much that you just unpacked right there. So I kind of want to go back, and you were going to be a nun. Tell us about that.
Well, in the Philippines, my mother enrolled my sister and me, Melly Nicolas and myself, in a Benedictine-run school, St. Agnes Academy in Legazpi. So we were intern, meaning we stayed in the school most of the month, going home maybe one weekend. And so the spirit of service, of love of God, love of neighbor was instilled in me. And for me, aside from that, for college, we were also in St. Teresa's College in San Marcelino. So looking at the life of the nuns, for me, it was very, very inspiring that how noble are the German nuns leaving their country, and what selflessness the Belgian nuns in St. Teresa's leaving their country and coming to the Philippines, teaching, the Filipinos, the Filipino women, girls. So in my mind, isn't that noble to live a life of service? That's why I was given a date to enter Notre Dame de Vie. It's a French-founded, nunnery. But the reason I like it was that you are able to be in the world for a lawyer, teacher, social worker, doctor. You can practice your career and yet be part of a community. So that was my plan, to be a nun.
Wow, that's amazing. You talked about, being a lawyer and then you immigrated here in the US. Can you share your story about that? Because, I am an immigrant myself, and many Filipinos here in LA, and I'm sure all over the US are immigrants. So please tell us your story about immigration.
No, I had no plan to immigrate. I think it was furthest from my plan. I was going with my father's plan for me, become a lawyer. He wanted to be a lawyer. He was in law school at UP, and his classmates were Dado Macapagal, Laurel. But he went into business and became very successful. So he had Nicholas Furniture, Nick Fur. So for me, because I'm the first, two brothers before me, and then I'm the first girl. So my father had high expectation. And to me, to my two brothers, he was very strict. But to me, I can do no wrong. So his plan for me was become a lawyer, go and run for public office. It was in his mind. So when he built a movie theater in Sorsogon, he named it after me, Loida Theater. So that when I ran for public office, I already have name recognition. So that was his plan. But when he sent me on a round the world trip here in New York, I had a tourist visa, but don't tell anybody, because I started to work in a law student civil rights research council. And my boss was a graduate of Harvard Law School. And, because he was very bright, very intelligent, Ray Glover, I introduced him to my sister. And he was fast. They were immediately going out on a date that weekend. And that's when destiny took a turn, because he said, Loida, I'll fix you a blind date. Coming from a conservative family, I've never been on a date one-on-one. I said, sure. And he introduced me to Reginald Lewis, his classmate at Harvard Law School. And that's when my life as an immigrant began. So it was not intended. But the takeaway in this is that, if you walk with God, you have to be very attentive. And so in this case, with all the plans that my father had, I followed my heart. So use your head, because he was very intelligent, driven, hardworking, and very ambitious. Much more than I was. So I surrendered.
Yeah, was there any obstacles as you were dating? Because both of you come from two different cultures. Was there any obstacles while you were dating?
The obstacle was simply that when we were planning to get married, I had second thoughts, because the obstacle was, how about my country, my friends, my family, my ambition? My father's ambition for me to become, a politician, a mayor, probably all the way to senator. That was the only obstacle in my mind. Race, you will say, isn't he African American? No, my father and my mother raised us not to be attentive to accidents of color, accidents of sexual preferences, economic status, because my father himself was from humble beginnings. His father died when he was 12, so he had to live with a rich uncle. That's normal in a Filipino family. So my father never identified people with, you're poor, don't go with them, or they are, they don't look good, or they are, things like that. As Martin Luther King said, look into their character, into their heart. So his being African American never really hit me. I fell in love.
No, I love that. Love sees no color. So I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes. Yes. Sadly, some Filipino families, because we were a colonial country for 350 years under Spain, we still have the colonial mentality that if your color is dark and or your economic status is low, then some parents do not oppose their children's choice to marry. And we are in the United States. There's still racism here, but compared to other countries, we have the freedom to choose what we believe is the best for us.
Yeah, I love that you're so open-minded. I think what I took away from what you shared is that, you didn't really plan to move here in the States, and all of a sudden, these wonderful things happened to you, meeting Reginald and, opening this new door in your life and in your career, and like looking beyond the colors, the skin color of people. Like you're absolutely right about that. When I was in the Philippines, I used to like bleach my skin. And then I moved here in the States. I'm like, oh, I gotta love my color. Brown is beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. And then I wanted to learn about, because you're the first Filipina like who didn't go to school here in the take law school, study law here in the States, but you passed the bar. So how was that journey? It's pretty amazing.
Well, the Philippines, after Spain of 350 years, the Philippines became a colony of the United States in 1898. Therefore, all of the educational system at the University of the Philippines, which was founded in 1908, is copied after American system, constitutional law, corporate law, insurance law, all of administrative law. All of that were copied with American laws. So, as far as New York and many other states are concerned, the Philippines Law School, no, just two, University of the Philippines Law School, Ateneo Law School, is equal to an American law school. So, when the Supreme Court in 1973 ruled in Griffith's case that American citizenship should not be a qualification to become a lawyer. Citizenship of being an American has nothing to do with becoming a good lawyer. And as soon as I learned that, I applied to take the bar. I wanted to pass it the first time. So I exiled my oldest daughter. She was 13 months old. I called up my mom, Mr. Lewis' mother. I call her mother-in-law, not mother-in-law. Mom, can you please take my daughter because I want to study 13, 14 hours a day? And she did. And so I was admitted as the first Filipina, first Asian, because I passed the bar in 1974.
Wow, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that story. Oh my goodness. And that proves to show that behind a successful woman is a tribe. Like without your mother in love, I think that's why it's good to have a relationship with your in-laws, because you're not just marrying the person, but you're marrying the family. And I think, it helps that it's not just about good looks. So some people marry into that or money or what have you, but it's really the support of the family. And that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, I must tell you also, Mr. Lewis cooperated because I said during these 2 months, no cooking, no shopping, no laundry, because I want to study and I didn't want to fail and send my daughter on exile again. And of course, he was very supportive.
That's great. So everybody that's tuning in, just want to do a quick break. We are here talking with Tita Loida, hosted by myself and our good friend Lois. So if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the comments and we'll try to get them through the show. So and we'll be talking about your book very shortly.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Tita Loida, I know you've done so much for the community. Can you give us some of our highlights, especially for the Filipino American community? Because I've been involved with some of your organizations.
Well, I want to tell this especially to women, because as a woman, for me, I had the other responsibility to take care of the kids. So I had a hard-charging, husband, Reginald Lewis. He was aiming for the very top of corporate America. I have 2 girls, Leslie and Christina. I was, I thought when I passed the bar, I wanted to become admitted to Immigration and Naturalization Service, and they didn't take me. There were 12 positions open, and I was not taken. So I sued them for discrimination, and I won. I won 3 years back pay. So I was a lawyer with immigration, and I also tried to be a real estate magnate. My friend, my classmate, Angie Cruz, who was here, my mother and I added our capital together and we bought a 36 unit of real estate here in Manhattan. And all of that, I was trying to be all things to all. I want to do all things all at once. And my body suffered. I got sick with tuberculosis and I was out of work for 3 months. So that's the first lesson, especially to women. Set your priorities. And so your question is, Filipino community. I did not participate in the Filipino community until after I was CEO of TLC Beatrice International. And in 1998, the 100 years celebration of the Philippine Independence Day, they asked me to be Grand Marshal. So that's only 1998, not earlier. So what are you saying? You are saying, what have you done for the Filipino community? Well, I'm one of the founders of the National Federation of Filipino American Associations, NAFA. But real founder is Alex Esclamado. He had a vision. Rodel Rudis was there also. Michael Dadap, who is a classical guitarist, was all together in my office on the top 48th floor of 9 West 57 and overlooking Central Park. That's when Alex said, the Chinese American have their organization, Japanese American, Vietnamese American, Korean American, but the Filipino, we do not have a national organization. So that's, I think, that I consider is one of my largest contribution to the Filipino community.
That's amazing. I know, like, we talked a little bit earlier. I actually got to attend the NAFA conference this past summer or last year in Las Vegas, and I was able to be on 2 different panels. So it was such an honor just to be a part of such a great organization and, just spread some knowledge and get to connect and network with other Filipinos across the country.
Yes. 25 years, if not more, of celebration since it was founded. Thank you.
We actually have a question from the audience, so let's get to that. What advice can you give to a young college student who is about to go out in the real world? Good question, Celeste.
Yes. Okay. First of all, know yourself. Meaning to say, be confident that you are able to get to college and finish college. So you've got skills. That's number 1. Know yourself and be confident. Number 2, what is it that you want to do? Sometimes it's very difficult to get a job. Then find an industry that you like and then take any job. Take any job for now because the experience of being in a corporation is good. Number 3, work ethic. I mean, not work ethic. I know you work hard because you finished college, but obey a code of ethics. Don't start doing, you have a sense of what's right and what's wrong. Don't go that way, the wide and narrow attractive way of, doing something wrong or not breaking rules, breaking the law, or, not taking care of yourself. Why? Because they have consequences. Your life is what you make it. And so you choose. Set your goal. Set your goal. What is your goal? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and then pursue that. Number 2, as I said, obedience to a code of ethics. And number 3, determination. Don't let anybody say, oh, you cannot do that. Believe in yourself and you can do it. Why? Because if you say to yourself, oh, I don't think so, you already failed. You already convinced yourself you can't do it. So I tell young people, especially to the one who asked the question, set your goal. That's G. Obedience to a moral code of ethics. That's O. Be determined. Determination. That's D. And if you put them together, G-O-D, that spells God. Because truly, with God, everything is possible. With God, nothing is impossible. So, salamat. Thank you for your question.
I love it. I love it. So I'll take note of that too, because I think that's applicable for any professional, anything that wanted to succeed and go to the next level. So I am very interested to get to know more about your book, Tita Loida. So tell us about why should guys have all the fun? So how did you come up with the title, and then what inspired you to write this book? Can you tell us a little bit more about your new book?
Well, as I said, in the past 30 years, I've been promoting my husband's book because, as an African American from humble beginnings, he was able to buy $1 billion company on leverage buyout. Leverage buyout, what does that mean? You borrow almost all of the money. And so, for 3 years, I have been, right, 30 years, I have been promoting his book. There is a woman whose story is like mine. Her husband died suddenly. This is Catherine Graham of Washington Post. And when she turned 75, she wrote her biography, or autobiography. So when I was younger, I said, okay, 75, I'm going to write my own book. 75 came and went, and I did not write anything. And so I was going close. I turned 80 last December. So 2022, in January, I called up the co-writer of Mr. Lewis' book, Blair Walker. And I said, Blair, you already know half of my story. Please help me write the entire book, story of my life. The prologue before I met Mr. Lewis, the 24 years that I was married to Mr. Lewis, and then after he died, when I became mother and father to my two girls, and running his company. And so I said, what's a good title? The good title is coming from his book. Why should guys have all the fun? An Asian American. And this, I had to fight my publisher. They said, if you put an Asian American, you're narrowing your audience. I said, no. Now is the time to tell everybody, as an Asian American, we should not be cause to be hated. Asian hate should not be here, because we Americans, we are as American as anybody else. And so my book tells the highs and lows, the suffering and the joys, that we as Asians are just like them, with dreams for our children, dreams for ourselves. That's the book. Why should guys have all the fun?
So you mentioned something about Asian American, and this is the perfect time, I would say, for us, because there's a lot of, unfortunately, during to the pandemic, that there was the Asian hate that came up. But again, it started the conversation, and then there's that openness to talk about, us, the Asians. So fighting for your book, to have that title, that subtitle is great. I think it will be very well received, especially in our community, and then also our allies. And I love that you mentioned that you didn't stop, like even after 75. Now you're 80. I couldn't believe it. You look great.
Hey, this is what 80 should look like if we take care of ourselves.
Oh my gosh. So my takeaway for that is, it's never too late for you to start anything. Once you want to do something, whatever age you're at, go for it, because it can be done.
Yes, you have to take care of yourself, because to thine own self be true. And again, love God, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So you have to start with yourself first, physical, financial, spiritual. Did you get that?
Yes. And then you mentioned something earlier about wellness. And this was actually, it's a big topic for all of us. And what would be your wellness tip for women, for all of us, because you've survived a major, um, this in your life, and you're healthy now, and you're beaming. What would be your advice for us?
Well, at 80, my advice to everybody is, moderation. moderation, eating. You have to eat like there's no tomorrow. Exercise. Why? Because, if you don't use it, you lose it. I don't run, but I do yoga. Not it used to be 3 times a week, but now I only do once a week, sometimes once a month. But I do walk at least 4,000 steps a day, going to church, coming back. That's almost 3,500. But the most important is really frame of mind. Frame of mind. I sleep nights. Why? Because I try to do the best I can for that day, because tomorrow is another day you don't know. So peace of mind, I sleep well, no, meaning I don't worry. I don't worry because I know that, the worst thing that happened to me was my husband dying after a short illness. We learned by around New Year that he had brain cancer. And by January 19, he was gone. So, I was totally discombobulated. Talagang walang isip. I was depressed. I was crying, bawling every time I remember. But God, in the Bible, it says, a mother may forget the infant on her breast, but even if she forgets, I will not forget you. So that was so consoling to me. And then the other one, I hold you in the palm of my hand. So if I am in the palm of my hand, nothing wrong will happen. And so it took me 6 months to say the Our Father, thy will be done. And then I was ready. It's almost like I asked for God's hand, and God held my hand and lifted me up. And that's how I've been walking ever since.
Wow. I know with writing a book, it's a long process, right? So what did you learn from writing this book?
I did take time off. I said, I'm going to East Hampton and just stay there for 2 months. And that's a good discipline. That's one. The second discipline is try to get it auctioned by a major publisher. Writing and publishing your own book is no good because it will take you a long time to sell the books since you don't have the support of a publisher. This time, on March 28th, I was Wiley and Sons had the books in almost all bookstores. So that's my second advice. My third advice is when you receive the money, you'll have to finish it. Why? Because it's called an advance. Because if you don't, you have to return the money. So as far as I'm concerned, it goes against my grain that I took the money and I did not fulfill the obligation of finishing it. So for all of those planning to write your own book, find a publisher, get an advance. You will surely finish the book.
Yeah, when you get that money, that's almost a guarantee that you'll finish writing that book. So for all of you that are planning on writing whatever you want to write and you find your publisher and you get an advance, that's almost a commitment. But I know, again, with the long process, what was your favorite part of the whole, writing this book?
Well, favorite part is, if for those who have been, because it came out and friends have been receiving it. And I have received only 3 or 4 calls saying, Loida, I did not sleep. In fact, one of my classmates, Leonor, just called me this morning. Loida, I did not sleep the whole night. I was reading your book. I couldn't put it down. And then there's another one, a brother-in-law, Elliot Wiley. Loida, I'm mad at you because I still have work to do and I couldn't do the work. I had to finish the book. So when you say, what's your favorite part? I think my co-writer, Blair Walker, did a great job because, I have not written a biography. He wrote my husband's book and that has been a bestseller. So Blair Walker did a good job in telling my story because although it is my voice, he crafted it so that you can't put it down.
No, I love that, especially with your peers, your friends, just having that, loving the work that you do. That's always the favorite part. I haven't written a book yet. I don't plan to, but it's never say never. But, I like to cook and bake, and it's not me just tasting the food, but when I see the enjoyment of other people liking that food, that's always the greatest joy.
Yes, yes. No, no, I'm happy. I'm happy. When I wrote it, it's almost, tell all. There are many things in it that my other friends did not know. But I thought that I should write an authentic book that contains, all our ups and downs. People are saying, "Oh, wow, they're already, they're very up there." No, when Mr. Lewis started his law firm, because he was first working in a law firm, so that's a regular salary. And then he and three others started their own law firm, the first black law firm on Wall Street. So income is not there immediately while I was working for immigration. So, I'll write a check to buy pork chop, and then the butcher will call me, "Mrs. Lewis, your check bounced, not sufficient funds." So in the end, I had maybe this set of checks that insufficient one. Of course, I pay them back when I receive my bi-weekly salary. I pay them back. And we first lived in a 5-story walk-up without an elevator. So it's we by our own effort and by Mr. Lewis' genius, we were able to go up. And how was that? Because when he was at Harvard Law School, he said, merger and acquisition is the best way to create intergenerational wealth. And as Lois said at the beginning, before we came on the air, Mr. Lewis was saying, merger and acquisition, meaning buying a company is the best way to create wealth. Because if you start your own company, startups, they have a 90% failure rate. Only 10% winners. And so if you're going to bet, why will you bet on something that has only a 10% chance of winning? Buying a company, you already have customers, you already have suppliers, you already have, the goods. And you will say, but I don't have the money to buy. That's true. But maybe if you like flowers, you start working in a flower shop. And if that flower shop has been around a long time and does not have heirs to inherit it, all of them are in finance or law or doctor, then maybe you can say to the owner, if you sell me the flower shop, I'll give you a payment over 5 years and you can retire in Miami Beach or back to the Philippines. So be creative, but learn the business that you are going to buy.
There you go, folks. If you missed that, that's a very good business advice from Tita Loida. So, Tita Loida, I want to go back a little bit on your book. Did you have any challenges when you were writing it? So, it's a two-part question. And then what do you want our readers to take away from your book?
Well, the first one, what was the challenge? It took me 5 years. As I said, 75 missed. So I said, I start writing at 75, 76. 77, 78 was the pandemic. And somehow I couldn't do it. So January 2022, I was turning 80. So Blair, help me on this one. Half of my life. So help me write the other half. So that's the biggest challenge. It took me 5 years. What is the takeaway from my book? The takeaway from my book is that, those who are saying, I don't want to take the challenge, I might fail. Take it. Why? Because you will always regret in your life, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But you will say, I don't want to do it because I might fail. You failed already. You think in your mind you'll fail already. And even if you take it and you fail, so what? Tomorrow is another day. What's that song? The sun will come up tomorrow. So, yes, brush up. And the most important is that you have a family around you that supports you. A wife, a spouse that does not say, oh, tamad-tamad mo ka, tanga-tanga ka naman. I mean, I am very, very shocked that wives or husbands would say negative things to their spouse, to their significant other, when the person is already, suffering or had a disappointment or, said something wrong. You affirm. Words of affirmation is an expression of love. It's not only saying, I love you, I love you. Affirm. Be positive, especially when your spouse or significant other is down. You just say, don't worry about it. You did wrong. Yeah, even if it's wrong, you did right. Don't worry, because tomorrow is another day. That's the best that I can say.
Oh my gosh, I think we're all getting a master class put on by Tita Loida right now. Oh my God, such great advice. We have a couple questions from the audience. So everybody who's here watching, go ahead and type in your questions. I know there's a couple questions I see. There's somebody asking about a book signing. We will get to that at the end, so you will see what locations. But this is a good question from Celeste. What do you think is the biggest challenge us Asian American women needs to overcome?
Well, I'll only speak as my own observation for Asian Americans. Is that not women, right? Asian Americans.
Yeah.
We are timid in a sense. We are not convinced of how good we are, because especially the immigrants, when we are here, we want to take advantage of everything that's happening, and sometimes we do not have confidence in our own selves na kaya natin. And really, kaya natin. Why? Because we came from the Philippines, third world country, and our training, if we went to a good school and we are trained by our parents, our training is something not common among Americans. I'm sorry to say, but that's it. Look at our nurses during the pandemic, because we are in the, what do you call this now? The unit that is the worst. What is it? I can't remember. But among those who died, although we are only 15% of the 800,000 registered nurse, we are 15%, but 40% of who died are Filipino nurses. That's how dedicated we are. And that's not only in being nurse. In every situation, more or less, we have a good reputation. We lived in Paris, and many Filipinos were, nannies, yaya. And when they know that I'm from Philippines, they always have something good to say. Oh, my children has a nanny from the Philippines. She is so good. Why not? Why is she not good? She's college graduate, but because she wants her family in the Philippines to be, better off, they will go anywhere, kapit sa pataling, and even take the job as nanny, yaya, or cook, or anything, or different lowly jobs, because they want to send money home. But for the Filipinos abroad, we all have a good reputation. So don't be scared. Don't be scared. Huwag kayong mahinhin, lalo na sa mga Filipina. Mahinhin, no, you're good. And actually, when I was not yet accepted as a lawyer, I worked with a poverty law firm in East Harlem. And as a secretary, I took the job. I wanted to work in a poverty law firm. And every year, I took very careful notes of what I was doing. Every day, I write it's called a diary, but really, what did I do that? After 1 year, I'd go to my boss and said, Mr. Lopez, here is my work for the year. I deserve a raise. Okay? You have to fight for yourself, but you do it in a nice way. This is the proof. So he would give me, by the third year, I was already earning, I'm not yet a lawyer, but I was earning the salary of a lawyer from a secretary. So, yan ang gusto kong sabihin sa mga fellow Filipino. Don't be timid.
That's great. We actually have another question. This came from Annie. You mentioned suing for discrimination and winning earlier in your career. In your eyes, how has discrimination changed for women or Asian, and what is your advice for standing up for ourselves? Good
All
question.
Right. You have to carefully see, where are you? I was working with the U.S. government, Immigration and Naturalization Service. I know that it's not a private company, and so when they did not take me, just for my own satisfaction, magaling ako ah. I mean to say, I was class valedictorian in high school. I was cum laude in college. I was number 7 in our graduating class in UP. Ang gagaling ng mga klase ko, so number 7 lang ako. And I spoke Spanish, English, and Filipino. So I have all these qualifications. 12, 12 vacancies at hindi ako kasali. The only way to find out is by suing INS for discrimination. But if you are in a private company, it's very hard to sue for discrimination. Why? Because you're up against your own boss. Unless it is really, it's really serious, if you sued for discrimination, you may be blackballed in others. So you have to choose where you have, and if you have a good boss, this discrimination is because of your boss. If you have a good relationship with HR, then tell them, always in writing, documentation. Right then, this is what happened to my section, blah, 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 blah. Write it out in all the details and send it to HR. Be sure you have a good relationship with HR. Because if you don't have, the HR itself will take you out. So use your common sense and your sense of discrimination. It's called discernment. And you can only get discernment if you're close to God.
Wonderful. We have one more question from Rocio. What is your proudest moment?
Rocio, that is my classmate in St. Agnes High School, and she's the one in charge of my tour in California, together with many friends. But Carlin Calloway is also helping, and many others. Yeah. So, what did you say? What is my
proudest moment?
Proudest moment, actually, my two daughters. Because Mr. Lewis and I did raise them. He has a very strong influence on them. Even when he died, Leslie was 19 and Christina was 12. And so the spirit of hard work and the spirit of do your job and respect your elders, those are just the two things that we have tried to impose on try to teach the values of hard work and the values of respect your elders. So I'm proud to say that's my proudest, that both of them graduated from Harvard and both of them are doing well in their lives and loving their children. I have 5 grandchildren. So that's the best. God's gift to me because I survived my 2 daughters.
I had a notion that you were going to say your daughters. I'm sure that was going to be your proudest moment. But you seem to be a person who sets a goal. Once you accomplish it, you go for your next goal or you set a new goal. So what can we expect from you in the future?
For the future, what do I have? Well, first of all, I want my book to be in bestseller job of the New York Times. So that's out there. My second is that in the Philippines, the Malampaya case. Malampaya is a source of income for the Philippines. Indonesia had foreign oil companies. Malaysia had foreign oil companies, but they only had 25 years to take out the gas and the oil in these countries. Now, the oil company in Malaysia and in Indonesia are owned by the government. So for me, the 25 years will end next year, 2024. It should come and be owned by the Philippine government, Philippine National Oil Company. Why are we giving it to somebody else that's earning $1,500,000 a day? Imagine $1,500,000 a day. How many school houses could it make? How many clinics can it create? How many jobs can it give? So that's my new advocacy. And my second advocacy, thank you for asking the question. The United States is renewing our base agreement. It's called the EDCA, Enhanced Defense, something like that. And we agreed as a government to allow the United States to make 5 more new bases, and they're spending $80 million to create these new bases. And what will happen? We will have Americans once more. American children, American soldiers having babies with Filipino mothers, and some of them are left behind. So, Equal Rights for Children, that was created by my friend Angela Aquino. We are advocating that the Philippine government says to the American government, set aside money. If you have 80 million for bases, you must set aside 10 million for the children that are going to be born with these American soldiers. Equal rights for children. So that's the future.
Thank you, Tita Loida.
Any more questions?
Let me see. I know people are saying you're very inspirational. A lot of people are agreeing with you. So again, love the positivity. And again, thank you to our viewers. I mean, how often do we get to have this opportunity to talk to Tita Loida, who is, a leader in our community, a change maker, everybody that, a lot of people do look up to. So again, thank you, Tita Loida, for joining us. But I'm going to toss us over to Lois.
Yes. So since one of Tita Loida's goal is to make her book a New York bestseller, I think our audience, that's our call to action, is make sure to buy her book. Let's see that again, Tita Loida, if you don't mind. And can you please tell us how we can purchase your book and how we can find you on social media?
Well, on social media, it is at Loida Lewis, all right? But go to your nearest bookstore and ask them, because if they don't have it, they can order it. Of course, Amazon.com. And I'm proud to say that with the hard work of my team in California, I just said Rosillo and Carlene and so many others. And here it's Marilyn and Laura and Carissa and Between. And of course, my co-writer, Blair Walker. We are #1 in new releases in Amazon.com. So yes, I am so proud of my team that they are working so hard. And so many other friends in Southern California. In fact, can you tell them where I will be? Because I intend to be. There you are. I am in the West Coast book tour. Please come to the Loyola Marymount University on Monday, April 17th, and on the Octavia Bookshelf. That's in Pasadena. I will be there also on Monday, April 17th. And on Tuesday, I will be in the California State University, Northridge. I will be there with reading, question and answer, and signing the book. So please come and see me in person. And you will see how an 80-year-old looks like.
That's amazing. I know that I see that it's being sponsored by Max and Lucy. So can we get confirmation that there's going to be in Samara at each one of these book signings? So that way we could have a live Tea and Merienda with Tita Loida.
Yes, and bring your iPhone or your Samsung so that we can have selfies.
Yes, absolutely. So, we're coming up to time. So, Tita Loida, is there any last words that you want to say to our audience?
How do I start the day? I start the day with quiet meditation. I take 15 minutes and I just count my breath. Why? Because when you are quiet, you can listen to what God is telling you. But even if He's not talking yet, it just refreshes your soul. 15 minutes. And then I try to read what the the word of the day. I have a book, The Word Among Us, and there's always a phrase there that carried during the day. And then think positive. Why are you worried? Why are you always saying what's wrong? When you go out, smell the air, listen to the birds. I know you have, especially those with young mothers, I know you're so busy. But when you're washing the dishes, sing. Why? Because life is precious and God is with us. We are all God's children. So, don't lose hope and love one another. Because what is the best thing? That you are loving each other with words, with gesture. When my husband comes home, when he would come home and, he's blip 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 here, blip 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 there. I don't come up also with why are you, don't take it personal. Why are you saying that to me? I'm not MF or whatever. You know, don't take the bait. It's not personal. He's just spewing out his frustration. And so instead of saying, you're late again. No, you say, darling, have you eaten? Yan. Ganda yan. Okay? Do you want a massage? Oh, so why not? You'll be loving each other more. And be sure also you pay attention. Okay? Sasabihin mo, ako naman, who will pay attention to me? Your girlfriends will pay attention to you. But for your husband, listen, because that's what I did. I was an active listener. All right? And then little gestures. Gift, okay, if that's the way you think, giving a gift, but gift of gesture, cooking his favorite food. Or in other words, love one another. Life is so short.
What a perfect way to end this interview. Thank you, Tita Loida. It was such a pleasure to speak with you over the past hour. Lois, is there anything you want to say to Tita Loida?
No, my heart is so full, Tita Loida. It's like I'm, as a woman, having my career and also doing community work, what you have shared is like hit home to me. And I'm sure it did for many of our viewers. So thank you for all of these nuggets of wisdom. You're definitely a force to reckon with. So thank you for leading our Filipinas, our Filipino community, the Asian community, to creating this visibility and being our inspiration. So looking forward to seeing you in Northridge, because that is close to our office in the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce. So we will see you there. And I'd like to share real quick, Jason, if you don't mind, what the chamber is about. So for you all, we are so honored to partner with SoCal Filipinos and talking about love. We love SoCal Filipinos because they are amazing. And that's how we uplift this community, is by working together and collaborating. If you want to know more about our chamber, check out our QR code right here. We have been around since 2001, and we have focused on entrepreneurship since 2018, and we have been growing really fast and helping our community, building business awareness, resources, especially during the pandemic, and we have been continuing to do so. And, to Tita Loida's tip of, having the meditation quietness, that happens to me in the morning. So I agree with you on that. So I shout out to my fellow Filipino American chamber who's attending and commenting here today, Celeste Rose and Annie, and there's several that I don't see here, but I'm sure they're commenting on Facebook. So thank you again, Jason, and thank you, Tita Loida.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you, Jason, for inviting me. My last word, I know I said a lot already. All right, my last word is, to those who are worried, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it's not the end.
Words to live by. Thank you again, everybody who has tuned in to watch. Again, share this live. It'll be living here on Facebook or YouTube. So spread the word of love, and we will see you next time. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your Saturday.
Remix.